What's good, y'all? It's your boy Sean Peter Blunt God. Hey! And we're back with another reaction video. And today we will be reacting to another Den Kushi. And the title of this video is Joy Boys Home, Jolly Roger, and Sword. 1056 spoilers. But before I get into that, make sure you guys hit that like button, subscribe, and hit that bell for notifications. Comment down below what are your thoughts on this theory and my reaction to it. Do you agree with me? Do you disagree with me? Let me know in the comments. Also, follow me on Twitch, follow me on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, and join the Discord. And also the link to this video will also be linked in the description box, as well as everything else. So let's get into it. So this video is about Joy Boys Home and Jolly Roger and Sword. I don't really have much predictions for this video. You know, I don't really have much of a prediction of what I think this could potentially be about. So we're going to get into it. Let's go.
This video is a quick and to the point theory about old and new Wano, and Joy Boy's connections to them both. So, let's get straight into it. In 1055 we discovered there is an old Wano that was submerged by rainwater after walls grew around the whole island, according to the official translation. We don't know much, except the inhabitants have since moved up the mountain, and somehow created a new Wano higher up. Old Wano is roughly 800 years old, around the time of the Void Century, Joy Boy, and Toki. Also, it's possible Zunisha had previously visited Wano around this time. Considering her recent appearance, it seems she already knew how to find the island, and we know Zunisha was Joy Boy's nakama, so the idea fits well. Oars could have been there at the time also. Oars was discovered frozen in Wano by Moria. Interestingly, he was not found underwater, but instead in the Land of Ice, a country in Wano that was established after the rainwater flooded Old Wano. This means Oars was present in Wano after
Oars was? Oars was president in why? I'm damn. I be missing a lot of stuff. I be like that, and that's why I love watching these videos, because they kind of remind me of stuff that I might have overlooked. That's why I love watching these theory videos. You know, I don't have the best of memory, so sometimes you guys, you other YouTube theorists, y'all remind me of things that I either missed or that I just flat out forget. So, but dang, I mean, he definitely was in Wano, right? Like we know Moria was in Wano. He fought Kaido in Wano. We know that he pretty much kidnapped Ryuma's body in Wano. So I guess it would make sense for them to have found Oars in Wano as well. Yeah. I wonder if he had Thriller Bark at that time, you know, because Oars is a big, like, you can't carry Oars on just some normal size ship, you know. Like, you can't carry his corpse on some normal size ship. But we know that Thriller Bark is like the biggest ship in the series so far that we've seen, at least. I think the only ship that you could probably say is bigger is I forget his name. He was in that One Piece film Gold. I think that whole thing was also a ship that he had all those casinos and stuff. I think that was a ship as well. But I think that's probably the only other ship in the series that we've seen that can rival Thriller Bark in. But again, I also don't think he was canon. I'm not sure if he was canon
after the flood. However, we know Oars was around 500 years before the present day. So now, if you take a giant's potential age, this conveniently puts Oars in the same era as Joy Boy. So it is indeed possible Oars was in Wano at the same time as Joy Boy. We see Oars wears a symbol. This symbol can also be found subtly tucked away in the background of the Kozuki crest. Yuru also shares the symbol as its handle, which is a blade we have little information about. That said, we know many of the greatest swords are crafted in Wano, so I don't think it's a reach to consider.
Hey, this is kind of falling into the realm of Wizard D. Oars. You know, like before him and Marshall D. Preach, you know, pretty much combined, I remember listening to some of his theories about Oars, or somebody from Oars' race possibly being Joy Boy, you know? And we also know from the hat that we seen in Marijoa is a big straw hat, which, you know, people may speculate to be Joy Boy's straw hat, kind of like Luffy has a straw hat. Joy Boy possibly also had a straw hat. And that straw hat might have been Joy Boy's straw hat. And so that can almost imply, if let's say that is Joy Boy's straw hat, it can imply that Joy Boy was indeed a giant. Now, was he like from Oars' race? I don't know. But if that is Joy Boy's hat indeed, Joy Boy was a big man. Let's continue.
Yuru is from there too. Additionally, Caribou featured many times in Wano, and he displays this symbol on his clothing. The symbol is definitely old, perhaps even 800 years or older. It appears above a poneglyph, for example, and we know poneglyphs are old, and tied to Joy Boy, as well as the Kozuki. We also saw Joy Boy had made an apology using one, so it's safe to assume the original symbol is as old as Joy Boy and the poneglyphs and are potentially even ancient. A great detail picked up by the detailed detective and ninja of numbers himself, Elson, is that the ends of our symbol resemble whale tails. Now when compared with this panel, it gets pretty spicy. We see mention of the two kings, which I think most of us can agree at this point means Poseidon and Joy Boy, despite Poseidon turning out to be a queen instead. This strongly implies whales and Joy Boy have some connection, but doesn't explain why it would appear in a Kozuki crest.
I think some translations just say sovereignty, like the two sovereigns, you know, because, you know, a sovereign could be looked at as a royalty, king, queen.
Crest. Now let's look at the Kozuki crest in a little more detail. We have our cross symbol, covered by a bird, looking left, with 8 lines indicating wings, a strange circle symbol that looks like a sun, and a black circle at the bottom, surrounded by 8 smaller circles.
And you know what else it could be related to? Like, thinking about it, like crosses, at least in the aspect of One Piece, right? Compasses, right? You got north, you got east, west, and south. So it can also be looked at as a compass, you know, because especially when you relate it to a series that are about like pirates and navigation and being on a sea. Compasses are a very important thing to navigate with, right? And it's not simply compass, it's the directions, the north, the east, the west, and the south. So it can also play a part into like directions, right? Also, when you look at the road poneglyphs, there's 4 of them, you know? There are 4 of them, and they all lead somewhere. They're all leading to Laugh-Tale. They all point you in a direction to Laugh-Tale. And another symbol, and they're not, again, it's not exactly like this specific symbol that he's relating to, but I'm just kind of relating this specific symbol more to a more general term. The world government, right? We got it's 5 circles, but it's like 4 circles, 4 dots surrounding one circle that's in the middle, right? And a lot of people reference those as the 4 poneglyphs leading to Laugh-Tale, you know? So symbolically they could mean multiple things. They, you know, when you look at religious stuff such as the cross, what that means in religion, One Piece reference a lot of stuff according to religions. Christianity being a major one. You know, we see the Bible, Kuma holds the Bible. The Noah is related to the story, the Noah's Ark, which, you know, in the last video we see that the potential of a great cleansing or a great flood, kind of like the story in the Noah Ark. And then the cross talks about Jesus. You know, we know that Jesus died and then he was rebirthed. And the story of One Piece it deals with a lot about like rebirth. You know, you could look at Luffy as like the rebirth of Joy Boy. So, you know, symbolically those crosses mean so many things. You know, they mean so many things.
With everything we've seen so far, this crest is actually quite simple when looked at in parts. We see our previous symbol at the back here. I actually have a video on this already, there's a link below, so I won't list every example where it shows up. We're yet to get confirmation as to what it actually is, but we can be sure however, the symbol is old. It appears to look like crossbones, similar to many Jolly Rogers. Furthermore, we have the bird looking left.
That too, right? That too, crossbones. We know pirates will have the skull and the crossbones. And the symbol does look more like the symbol look like bones, and they also kind of look like fins from a whale, which plays into another theory that I reacted to a while ago about the whales, right? Like Laboon. Those, like his species of whales possibly being connected to finding the One Piece. Because when we first enter the Grand Line, we were greeted by Laboon, who is a whale. When we first enter the New World, we were greeted by a school of those whales that Laboon comes from. Remember, they came from Fishman Island into the New World. We were greeted by whales. And I think the theory pretty much explains that those whales are a symbol towards going the right direction. Against navigation. But that was an old theory that I reacted to. I thought it was interesting to bring up because those do look like whale fins.
In real life there is the Mori clan, and this is their symbol. This no doubt acted as inspiration, seeing as the clan were battle-hardy, and most known during the Sengoku period. The bird itself is a crane. In Japan, the crane is a national treasure, representing longevity. This is because it was thought to have a lifespan of 1,000 years. I theorize the crane is looking left, because left is east. And as the expression states, the sun rises in the east, and sets in the west. Meaning the bird is looking to the dawn. Next, we have the wings. Recently more than ever, we see references to particular crew members, described as wings. The term wings is used to imply they lift their captains higher, a metaphor meaning to significantly assist their captains in achieving their goal. So I think these wings represent the individuals who uphold whatever the bird represents, as it looks to the dawn. Now we have this strange circular symbol, which looks like the sun. It could simply represent the sun having risen as a full circle, indicating the dawn is complete. However, I can't help but feel sun god Nika is tied to this in some way, but I'll get to that. Finally, we have the circles at the bottom surrounding a larger circle. Notice how they sit on the chest of the crane on the crest. Almost like it's from the heart, the place from which JOYBOY'S beat comes. Also, in a recent SBS we saw Apu's heart as annotated with the word drum. We are yet to have confirmation of what the symbol itself means, but we've seen many different variations throughout the story. I believe it represents the 8 kingdoms, surrounding the ancient kingdom. This is an old theory popular in the community, that ties many similar looking symbols together with other important information, like the location of the poneglyphs. The essence of the idea is that the ancient kingdom had 8 allies, 1 in Skypia, 1 in Fishman Island, and so on. These allies protect the poneglyphs in true history of the word from the world government, ensuring JOYBOY'S will is inherited appropriately. So, with these assumptions in mind, let's look at what this could mean as a whole. I theorize that this crest is in fact JOYBOY'S crest. And the Kozuki crest is more aligned with the crescent moon. I don't think it's just a crest either, but a Jolly Roger of sorts. That's why we see it around poneglyphs. We see it in current Wano because JOYBOY built the current Wano with the help of his nakamas, some of whom JOYBOY may have liberated prior. These are the people the wings represent. His crew. JOYBOY is known as a liberator and connected to the dawn, so the bird looking east would also fit well. Now onto the sun symbol. If JOYBOY is Nika, it would explain this. Many theorize Nika was the leader of the ancient kingdom, explaining the symbol at the bottom too. Someone described as ancient, ruling an ancient kingdom, is not far-fetched. However, I think it may be.
Yeah, I think Nika might have been before JOYBOY'S time, personally. Unless they were the same person, but I think Nika might have been like the original. Like maybe JOYBOY is like the successor of Nika, right? But because Nika looked like Nika came from a more primitive time than possibly JOYBOY did, so I mean, even though we don't know how primitive JOYBOY'S era was, so I mean, I can't say that's the strongest argument, but we don't know how primitive it was. But I think Nika might have been like the originator of the will that eventually Joy Boy might have gotten, and then Monkey D. Luffy have gotten. You like maybe Joy Boy had the Nika devil fruit as well.
Be more likely that Joy Boy appreciates the Nika myth and his ideals, and so incorporates it into his flag. The connection to the ancient kingdom in this case may mean Joy Boy himself is in fact the leader of the ancient kingdom, or at least from there. Not only do I think this represents Joy Boy's Jolly Roger, but the reason it features so heavily relating to Wano and the Kozuki is because Joy Boy and his Nakamas built Wano as we know it today. This included help from the Kozuki clan. The Kozuki are the only ones we know to make a poneglyph, and Joy Boy himself had one made as an apology to Poseidon, so they must be close. But why? I think that Joy Boy came to Wano not long after the rainwater flooding took place, displacing the Kozuki clan and their country. I believe Joy Boy offered to build them a new home, similar to with Zoe. Because of this, I think Joy Boy and his companions essentially stole bits of land where they could, and brought it back to Wano, using Oars and Zunsha's strength to pull the great landmasses. This is how Oars got his nickname, the Continent Puller. In these panels he is also...
I was low-key thinking like when he talked about Oars being in Wano, right? When he talked about Oars being Wano, like one of my thoughts was the potential that Oars was the one who created that that wall around Wano, that border, right? Maybe it was to hide Pluton, you know. So maybe the border of Wano isn't necessarily like it could have like a double purpose. It could be to protect Wano from, let's say, the world government, you know, because maybe at that time the world government were enemies of the ancient, or they were enemies of the ancient kingdom. So maybe they was like, we need a border to protect the ancient king or the ancient kingdom, or this ally of the ancient kingdom from the world government. Also to hide Pluton, because we know that Pluton is in Wano, and in order to access it, you got to destroy those borders. And when you look at other a lot of the other civilizations that could have potentially been a part of the ancient kingdom, most of them have some type of border to keep them protected. We have Wano. It has that border that wasn't always there, obviously. You know, somehow it was put up. We don't know how it was put up. Maybe Oars could have been the one to do it, but it was erected somehow. We have Skypiea, who I also believe to be an ally of the ancient kingdom. One clue are all the symbols that we got in Skypiea, the sun god symbols, the sun god, a lot of moon symbols, if I remember correctly. I know there's a lot of sun symbols, but there might also be some moon symbols as well. But again, Skypiea is a hotbed for a lot of theories. And I think that is because it was an ally of the ancient kingdom. Plus, they also had a poneglyph. They also had that gold poneglyph and that gold bell. And then you got Fishman Island. Fishman Island is under the sea. You know what I'm saying? It's not the easiest to access. You know, even though, like, if you coat your ship in that bubble stuff that Rayleigh did, the Straw Hat ships, then you can access it. But it is hard to access it. So, again, like, most of these allies of these ancient kingdoms have these borders that make them tough to access. You know, so they could kind of keep outsiders away. You know, and when you look at it, Fishman Island or Fishman, Skypieas are like these sky people. Each of these allies are, you know, other than maybe like Wano, because Wano seem like normal humans, a lot of the other allies are not like normal humans. Alabasta as well. Alabasta is also normal humans as well. But like Fishman Island, Skypiea, you know, they're a little. It seemed like they had a more diverse culture. They were more accepting to different cultures other than just human. Could that also be because Joy Boy was a giant and he wasn't human? I will also probably venture to say Elbath was an ally to the ancient kingdom as well.
Was said to be evil, as well as his country. This makes sense as well, if Joy Boy was the one who established this Wano, because Joy Boy is the enemy of the Emu and the world government, so it's only natural they would be galvanized, and named villains, particularly under the charge of stealing islands. These panels also suggest it was home to Oars, thus potentially Joy Boy settled there too. On a slightly different note, I think it's...
Could Wano also have been home to his race? Right? Because we see Onigashima there, which looked like it could have been the skull of a being even bigger than Oars. You know, maybe he was like the king of the Oars race or something. And when you look at the map of Onigashima and where Onigashima sits, it's like actually attached to the whole island itself, you know, which I found was unique, you know, I found that interesting.
It's possible Joy Boy's Nakamas were happy to assist him, since in my opinion Joy Boy liberated them from their enslavement, or some other troublesome circumstances. For example, I wouldn't be surprised if Oars had been the result of a giant experiment, and Joy Boy was the one to free him. I won't go into giant experiments in this video, but I have covered it in the video linked in the description. Often people discuss giants races in the One Piece community, but let me definitively clarify. This is a real giant.
Could Oars have been experimented on? Because when we look at the numbers, each of them look similar to Oars. But we also learned that the numbers were pretty much experiments in themselves. You know, so maybe the world government was trying to recreate the same experiment that created Oars. I mean, my only pushback was we got Oars Jr. who looks just like Oars as well. So maybe his race was like an experimental race. But when you usually create something from like science, it tends not to be able to procreate. There are these animals called ligers and tyons, which are just like crossbreeds of lions and tigers, but they can't have children. So I would think if Oars was an experiment, right, would he have been able to create or procreate and have children? Because he had to if we have Oars Jr. Maybe Oars was a success though, and if he was a success, maybe he was also able to have offspring as well. You know, but they would have also had to create like a woman Oars. I don't know if Oars would be able to have children solely by himself. The fact that Oars had a child, Oars Jr., I don't know if Oars was an experiment, but it just reminds me that the numbers, they look a lot alike Oars, and we know that they were experiments. But maybe they were just failed experiments of recreating Oars' genetic line.
This is not a real giant. This is also a real giant. And this, you guessed it, is not a real giant. So Oars may not be an authentic giant. This next one is a bit of a reach, but I'm just speculating. It's not necessary for my theory, but I could see Oda revealing that it was in fact Joy Boy who punished Zunisha after she destroyed the old Zou or some other area, and Joy Boy convinced her of her wrongdoing. She agreed to a punishment of carrying Zou for however many years. Finally, I believe Yuru was Joy Boy's sword. It's a sword owned by a character dubbed the strongest swordsman in the world.
I think I said this. I feel like I said this a few weeks ago. I forgot where I said it. It might not have been on stream. It might have been like a conversation. But I was saying, like, you know, Mihawk has a super big sword. Like, his sword is big. But at the same time, it might be too small for a giant. Because, yes, it's big on him. But for, like, somebody, let's say, Frankie size, you know, somebody like Frankie size, I don't think Yoro would be that big if Frankie was carrying Yoro. Yoro would probably be like a normal sword for Frankie. A normal size sword for Frankie. So for somebody bigger than Frankie, like a giant, Yoro might actually be a bit small. You know, but seeing the symbolism maybe Joy Boy wasn't that big. Maybe Joy Boy was Frankie size as well.
Title that confused me as the story went on and we met new, strong characters. But the fact the hilt is our special symbol, Mihawk has similar eyes to Emu in Gear 5 Luffy, as well as Mihawk and Emu both being swordsmen, and that it's currently held by the strongest swordsman in the world, for me, makes it pretty clear you're...
I'll be saying, man, I think Mihawk came from a special lineage. Like, that's one thing I believe, that Mihawk came from a special lineage. I think those eyes are... those are some special eyes. I like, kind of like Naruto when you got the Uchiha, they had the Sharingan. We've seen other characters have those eyes as well at times. We've seen Cavendish when he's in the middle of his stage of Cavendish and Hakuba. He had eyes like those, but those were temporary. Cavendish doesn't normally have those eyes, nor does Hakuba normally have those eyes. Those are only in a very unique situation. So I think Hakuba and Cavendish having those eyes is just more a situational thing. Just like there's been other characters that like temporarily had those eyes as well. But Mihawk always has those eyes. And again, I think those eyes are special.
Yuru is Joy Boy's blade. Okay, I skipped some steps, but to keep it brief, I'm suggesting Joy Boy was one of the greatest swordsmen, a rival of Emu, and Yuru was his blade. Both Emu and Gear 5th Luffy had similar eyes. To give you a quick rundown of what I mean by this, so far we've seen Emu, Luffy in Gear 5, Caribou, Hakuba, Cavendish, Mihawk and Zunisha with the special eyes.
Caribou. I forgot about Caribou. Now, oh man, see now, then you changed the game for me. You added something that I didn't even consider in my theory. We got Caribou pretty much telling or saying like, I gotta tell a certain man. And the thought, my original thought, and it kind of still is that it's Blackbeard. But there's also a lot of theories talking about how Emu might be possessing characters. He might possess characters or something, such as Cavendish. You know, like Hakuba is just Emu taking control of Cavendish. Could Emu and Cavendish be connected? Or not Cavendish. Could Emu and Caribou be connected? Could the guy that Caribou is talking about, he needs to tell, could it be Emu? Could Emu be a descendant from this race? Because see, the difference between Caribou and Cavendish is Caribou's eyes are just like that. They're permanently like that. Even though they're not exactly the same, right? Like Mihawk's eyes are a little different than Caribou's because how his rings are so associated. You know, like Caribou has a 3-layered like eye ring. Mihawk only has 2 layers. You know, he has like 2 circles and then he has the pupil, the dot. Caribou has 3 circles and then the dot. You know, so their eyes aren't exactly alike. But maybe Caribou could be, in the sense, part of Mihawk's race as well. He has more of like a 3-layered eyes. He has green and then a border, and then light green, then the border, and then dark green again, and then he has the pupil. Mihawk has yellow, the border, yellow, and then the pupil. You know, so Mihawk only has 2 layers. So maybe Caribou just has a higher, maybe he's just on a higher plane of existence than Mihawk. Damn, Mihawk, man, we can't keep taking these L's, man. You can't be taking this L to Caribou, man. Come on, bro. Nah, but Caribou is also a spiritual character as well. Or maybe not spiritual, but he also has that cross as well. Maybe Caribou just awakened another level, right? Than Mihawk. Maybe Mihawk still has some ground to cover. No, I'm just messing. But that'd be crazy though if Joy Boy did have that sword and that sword is like a lineage thing, right? And Mihawk eventually inherited that sword. You know, like that sword is an inheritance all the way from like his ancestor being Joy Boy.
All of these have connections with the old world in one piece. Caribou wears the symbol, which can also be found as the hilt of Mihawk's blade. Cavendish's rapier is identical to Emu's. Zunisha is thousands of years old. Gear 5 Luffy has ties to Nika, and Emu heads the Holy Land. And both are involved with this symbol. We see it appear in the Palace of Maryjaw, above a large straw hat. Coincidence? I don't think so. This is why Yuru is the most significant blade with the least information on it, because that's late game reveal stuff. Lastly, I believe it'll tie to Wano also, a gift perhaps from the Kozuki clan.
Hey, I'm just saying, then, man, you building that excitement that I have to know more about Mihawk, man. Bruh, you building it, man. You building it, my guy. You building it. Keep doing it, though. Keep doing it, my guy. Keep doing it.
So, to conclude, I believe Joy Boy and his crew arrived in a flooded and troubled Wano and decided to help. And in return the Kozuki made or gave Joy Boy Yuru. The relationship between Joy Boy and the Kozuki clan is strong because of this. For this reason Joy Boy made Wano his home to some degree, as well as Oars. Wano is connected to many other kingdoms through Joy Boy as well, and together these potentially make the force that rivaled the world government. Wano seems particularly significant, and could be the capital of the New World Sea before it was named that. In the future of the story, we will probably witness a new Wano, seeing as we know once the walls are brought down, likely by Zunisha, Wano will release its rainwater. This could potentially leave far more land for people to settle on. Maybe, this means the Minks and other inhabitants of Zou could settle in the new Wano. Bringing down the borders is stated to be needed in order to release Pluton, so I'm pretty confident they will come down eventually. Before I wrap up, here are some brief relevant notes that I think are interesting. Wano was submerged underwater roughly 800 years ago. Since then a new Wano has been developed. This is ironic considering the name of the ocean, the New World, and makes me wonder how it got its name. I didn't mention much about Toki, but there is much to be said about his uncanny history spreading over 800 years. The destruction of old Wano coincides with the age of Toki sending people to the future. She no doubt had ties to Joy Boy, and the story as a whole. Tons of parallels can be drawn between Alabasta and Wano, but I thought it was a nice touch.
I mean, Toki could be actually related to Joy Boy. Toki might be Mihawk mom. I'm telling. No, I ain't gonna make that speculation. But yeah, I think Toki could potentially be related to Joy Boy, possibly, or even Eam. Maybe Eam. Who knows?
By Oda to state not only that the knowledge is passed down the bloodline, but also the fact characters went down into a crypt-like structure to find the poneglyphs. Another thing, as I imagine everyone wants to know, where does Vegapunk come into this? His technology is said to be years in the future, but in fact is likely advanced technology from the past, so maybe he knows about some Wano agenda and intended Momo to have his fruit for a reason. In a future video I plan to discuss inherited wool, and how all of what we have seen in Wano is potentially planned out and supposed to transpire. It seems very coincidental 800 years after Joy Boy was at Wano Luffy awakens his sun god fruit in Wano, causing Zunisha to refer to him as Joy Boy. Maybe Wano is related in how Luffy achieved his transformation. Maybe Joy Boy had an agenda. Shout outs to Parvision's Discord for helping me with this one, you're all legends, thank you. Thanks for watching, and don't forget, subscribe for some free Adam Wood.
Alright, man. Go give this a like. But yeah, interesting stuff. A lot of that stuff talked about some good stuff to think about, like Mihawk potentially being connected with Joy Boy, like with the eyes. Maybe that is like a bloodline trait of Joy Boy's race. You know, maybe Eam comes from Joy Boy's race as well. I've made speculation that I believe maybe Joy Boy and Eam could have been connected. Maybe they weren't always enemies. You know, maybe they were friends at once. You know, maybe they were brothers. You know, maybe they're related. Maybe Toki's also related in that equation as well. But man, it's some good stuff. I honestly don't have much to add to this theory. I don't it's actually a lot for me to think about, man. It's a lot for me to think about. But yeah, y'all, that's all I got for the video. I don't really have much to add to this one right here. To me, it's just a lot of stuff that for me to actually think about. A lot of symbols, a lot of stuff that we have talked about before. Nothing really new that I can add to it. But hey, shout out to Den Kushi. Make sure you guys hit that like button. Also subscribe and hit that bell for notifications. Follow me on Twitch. Follow me on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. And join the Discord. Join the community. And the link to this video will also be linked in the description box below, as well as all my other social media stuff. So make sure y'all go give Den Kushi some love. Go like the video. Anyway, y'all, it's your boy Sean P, the Bluff God, and I am out of here. Peace.